I have 6:15. Good evening, all. I'd like to call the May 24th, 6:15 p.m. joint open session meeting of the Ayer Planning Board and Conservation Commission to order. I don't even know how to do this, but do you mind if I read this for both of us, John?
Please.
Thanks. I'll read the governor's message. I wonder if this will ever end. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, OML, public bodies otherwise governed by the OML are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom meeting ID 833-654-80732 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Heather Hampson, Administrative Coordinator at hampson@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 144, prior to the meeting. So how do you want to call us both to order? You've got a quorum also, John. So why don't I call us to order, then you call yourselves to order, huh?
Good.
I'll take a motion to accept the agenda from a planning board member.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Krantz. Do you have a second?
Seconded.
Thanks, Julie. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? We have to do it by roll call. I'm sorry. Jonathan?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Nathan? Nathan?
Oh, you have to unmute Nathan.
He's doing it.
Yeah. Aye.
Thank you. Julie?
Yes.
And Jeff says aye. Go ahead, John.
Motion to approve the agenda for the special meeting, joint meeting, planning board, Concom of May 24th, 2022. Second. Moved by Mark Phillips, was seconded by Jenna Maya. Take a roll call vote. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. I just realized I wasn't muted and I'm making noise over here, John. Sorry about that. So on our agenda, we have covenants release, but we have none tonight. So why don't we just jump right to the review working group discussion, section 10.1 of the open space residential development. And I was going to ask, how do people want to accomplish this? Anybody got any great ideas? Jonathan, go for it.
I do have a thought about this. On this call, we have a mix of people. We have some people who are very involved in this review, including Mark, myself, and Ken representing the planning board, and Jess and John, I know, are very active on the Concom side. I would love to hear first and predominantly from the people who weren't part of that working group. So that means Mark, Jen, Nathan, Julie, and yourself, Jeff, because there's an important insight that they can give that people close to it can't. That is, for you guys who are able to see it with fresh eyes, we need to know, did this make sense? If you can imagine an applicant getting this set of instructions, could you follow them? Was it clear? Was it confusing? Was there any ambiguity or anywhere? Those are the kind of global insights we need, as well as I'm sure we're going to do a deep dive line by line. But I do suggest that we make room for the people who weren't part of the OSRD working group to give us that feedback about clarity, because they have fresh eyes.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Jonathan. And I'm going to, if I may, jump in. I did read them, not with that in mind, to be honest with you. And there's a graphic that was in our package. Mark, was that intended to be instructional to us from the beginning?
Yeah, the graphic is really a flow chart of the overall process.
Yeah. So Jonathan, if I may ask a question, because you guys were really close to it. And first of all, I want to say thank you to all of you. I know I've spoken to Jonathan individually about this, and I know Jess has spoken about it with me also. You guys have done a great a great job in putting this thing together. So thank you very much. However it ends up tonight, thank you very much for the effort you put into it at this point. I'm also very encouraged that planning and conservation will be working together going forward. With that said, Jonathan, is it okay with you? Did you look at the graphic that Mark put together? I think it's a pretty good
Oh, yeah.
guideline for us to follow this evening. Okay, great. Mark, why don't you go ahead?
Yes, what I'd like to do is just talk about the overall purpose of this real quick before we get into the details. Basically, what this document is, the Open Space Residential Development Regulations and Design Guidelines, they're intended to be a subsection of the subdivision regulations that we've already adopted, with more specific guidance on OSRD subdivisions as far as what sort of information we would like to see with applications, what sort of standards we'd like to see as far as design guidelines. We also have a very extensive list of definitions, and also a fair amount of detail on the process by which the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board will work together to review these subdivisions going forward. The section 10.1 of the air zoning bylaw anticipates that regulations will be adopted along these lines. So back in 2000, I think it was 2019, working mostly with Joanne Christoph, we worked on developing sort of an internal core piece of this. And then with the pandemic, things sort of fell off. And starting in the winter, we formed a little working group of the members that Jonathan just mentioned. And I want to give a big thank you to Jess and John and Ken Diskin and Jonathan, and also Dan Van Schalkwyk from DPW, who assisted in the drafting of this. Now I'll just go to the overall graphic just to talk about the steps that are involved in the overall process. This is envisioning that the applicant, as described in the bylaw, will have an informal meeting with the planning board as a first step. They will prepare a conservation analysis and a concept sketch, which is not quite the level of preliminary plan. They'll submit that to the Conservation Commission, who has the first big sort of piece of this, which is to review the conservation analysis, hold a site walk, and then make a recommendation to the planning board on the recommendations that they have for conservation land and open space in the subdivision. The planning board in step 4 will then make the conservation findings as part of their preliminary plan steps. And this could sort of be concurrent here, steps 4 and 5. But basically, the first step that we recommend is the preliminary subdivision plan, followed by the definitive plan. So this is really just the overall process. And then within each of these, the document goes into a little bit more detail.
Thank you. Can I ask a question of the general folks at hand? Do you want to do questions at the end, or do you want to take them as they come up? And let's just keep track of the time so we don't get too deep in.
I'd like to ask if that picture is in the town of Ayer.
I don't believe so. No.
But I think it's kind of important that we.
We'll get there.
I was looking. Yeah, we can easily substitute in your picture.
I actually have a substantive question, but that's okay.
Yeah. I will stop sharing this and I can bring up the main document.
Actually, if you want to just leave it here for one more minute, because this is what I want to talk about.
Sure.
So, and I don't know how I don't know how the planning board looks at this. I don't know how the Conservation Commission looks at this. And I look at this as being two groups kind of tracking along. Yes, it starts with conservation step 1 and step 2. As we go from 3, 4, 5, how does the handoff actually happen? Do we end up in a meeting together? Sorry, I changed my screen. So when I look at now I can look at the camera. And Jess, Mark, and Jonathan, and whomever, as we go down through the steps 2, 3, 4, 5, where there's kind of a handoff, do you see that being a face-to-face handoff, a document handoff? How does that work?
I see it well, for myself, I see it as a document handoff, just as we've done in the past. The conservation agent, who will be Heather Hampson, will prepare a document after the Conservation Commission has reviewed this, where she highlights the Conservation Commission's recommendations and findings. And that is submitted to the planning board. Now, there's nothing to preclude a joint meeting, just as we are doing now when a new subdivision comes in, but it's not required that there be a meeting of the two boards together.
Thank you, Mark. Is that pretty much where people stood on it? I just was curious.
Yes.
Yes. Well, that's.
We got 3 planning board and one conservation. Great. No, thank you. No, that's good. Okay, good. And this actually tracks very closely with what's on page 4 of the document. Though we have a step 4.5 in the page 4 of the document.
Yeah,
but
I
that's
might,
okay.
might make that a 5, but
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay.
basically, there were 2 overall things processes that the document describes. One is this overall process, which you see here, which is also mentioned on page 4. And then within the conservation analysis itself, which is really one of the big pieces of this, within the Conservation Commission analysis itself, there are several steps involved in that.
Mhm.
So we wanted to break those out. So hopefully on page 4 is described clearly enough that it's not too confusing as far as what is the overall process and what is the sub-process.
Yeah.
So
May
what
I
you see
ask-
as a sub-process is Roman numeral number 3 at the bottom of page 4, the OSRD development impact statement. That's also,
Mhm.
also the important piece of it.
Yep.
And conservation analysis process. So that goes into the more details of that.
And
And
if
that
I
is the
may, the
bulk of the-
conservation analysis piece is on page 6 at the bottom. Starts on page 6.
Yes, as far as the description of the process, right?
Okay.
Whereas before that is the development impact statement. Yep.
Well, thank you. And then, okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yep. So I'll stop sharing that so that I can, if you don't mind, I'll put up the document itself with the
Mhm.
words. And however you would like to go through this as a group. I could state, maybe we go page by page and I'll just state what's on each page and some of the highlights of that, and that might elicit discussion. So the first
Excuse me.
thing,
Art,
yes,
If
Jonathan.
possible, as I said earlier, would it be possible for those who weren't in the OSRD group just to
Oh.
generally give us their opinion about clarity before we go in line by line? But the whole
Sure.
gestalt, the whole thing, if we could address that, please?
So Jonathan, I think I read the document all the way through. I had to go back and forth in a couple places because of things I came across, like just some simple wording stuff that I got confused by, but it had to do with where else information is later in the document. And I think the one that got me just as some feedback, and this is just I always end up doing this when I'm in documents because oftentimes I have to figure out where I am and where I gotta go. Hold on a second. It was deep in. It just refers to section 4, Roman numeral 4, on page 9 in the middle. Under A, identify primary conservation areas, which is great.
Right.
The sentences start after determining the existing conditions on the site. The next step is to determine which areas should be preserved. Areas of primary and secondary priority for preservation shall be identified. Additional guidance on the layout of open space areas found in section Roman numeral 4 of this document. And I just found myself looking for that at that point. I couldn't remember if I was before or after, but that's all. It says of this document below, and I looked right below it and couldn't find it.
Oh, yeah, that's on page 16, which is the design guidelines. That's
Yeah, I know.
what's
And I'm
being
on page
referred
9
to.
reading that. So that's
Right.
From a standpoint of, is it simple to read? That's the only thing I got stumbled over with
Okay.
Jonathan. Not fully understanding, not fully thinking through all of the nooks and crannies of information that we're trying to get at in this document.
Mhm.
Is that a fair way to say it?
Yes, absolutely. Mark, could we put a parentheses and put the actual page number in the final document? So
Yes.
open parentheses, page 16, end parentheses, right?
Yes,
Whatever it
I'll
ends
make a
up being.
note. Yep,
Or
I'll
even
make
a link
note
to, a link to section rule 4, which you
or
can do in
jump link.
documents.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, we could have internal links. Okay.
yeah, because
internal
people are
link-
gonna be using this electronically, so that's all.
Right,
Yeah, I would say do both, you know, then you're
internal
covered.
links and page references.
Right.
I might wait on that just a little bit in case
have
the
to.
Yes.
pagination changes.
You have
after-
to,
after
you have
we
to
edit.
wait. So you make a
Right.
note now, but
I
it's
make-
the last thing on your punch list before it goes to print is the, just
Yes.
the imagination. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I just made that note.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yep.
it.
And then the only other comment I had was, again, on page 9, reading down, areas listed as being high in the index, and this is maybe something that conservation can answer better than us. But we talk about index of ecological integrity, important wildlife habitat, the UMass Extension CAPS program, and stuff like that. Are there more programs that ever could show up? Or is there a sense that goes in there? This is one of those situations where being exact may hurt you.
Mhm.
And please don't think I'm being hypercritical. It's just having lived through the zoning bylaw before we changed it, they'd argue about section 5 or section 9. Because we were so exact in some places, and so general in other. So
Mark, can you put up the page he's talking about on the screen?
Oh,
page
yes.
9,
Yep, I'll scroll down to it.
it's the second to last paragraph on. You might want to grab that slider and make
Oh,
it
there it
bigger.
is. Yep, I'll
There you go.
enlarge it a little bit if I can.
In the lower right corner, there's
Yep,
a
there I
slider.
go.
There you go.
All right, yep.
There you go. And-
I'm not sure, Jess, if you want to opine on this, but
I'm pretty sure
I'm
that.
not sure this has changed much. I think these are two main programs or databases that the state keeps about conservation land of
Right.
ecological importance. You know, maybe we could put a caveat in there, you know, the ecological integrity and index of ecological integrity, important wildlife habitat, and other information has may become available or something like that.
I think, I have a comment, Jeff, on this and Mark. So we talked about this as a group, and I think the other thing we have to keep in mind is that this document is going to be going to the engineers and designers of the project who are familiar with this type of language, more so than members of the planning board might be.
Mhm.
So we're giving them in a general sense, all the requirements that what would typically identify under regulations, the important areas, but they're fully aware of that as well as they do their research. So I don't think we talked about some of these things and should we tweak them any further, but most of the time I'm coming up with the idea that it's going to be used by professionals. We're way ahead of where we were with nothing. And so my approach is that we got a pretty good, thorough description of what we're trying to get at.
No, thank you. That's very helpful.
Okay, should I go back up to the top? And as Jonathan mentioned, he would like to hear from people who are not part of the work group.
Well, I guess
So
it says that-
basically, in the
Mark?
introduction, we have the purpose.
Mark,
Yes,
I guess just going back to Jeff's comment though, does it make sense though to make it somewhat open-ended? Let's say that this document does not get reviewed for the next 3, 5, 6, 10 years, but maybe a new program is identified. So we're saying areas listed as being on the high, being high on the index, blah, 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 right?
Right.
Should also be
Yep.
considered. Should we say something to the effect though, in addition to any new programs that may be proposed or developed? Is that kind of what you're getting at, Jeff?
You know, I don't know. I actually, Mark, listening to Ken, I agree with Ken. I want to stay at 64,000 feet. But it's the kind of thing where I think we need to be conscious of it as members of the planning board and members of the Conservation Commission. If something comes up in your world that impacts us, let us know. It's a regulation, we can change it. Is really what it comes down to, Mark. I mean, we can't plan for everything. And what we've done in the past by planning for unique things is put us in trouble with other things.
right.
So,
But yeah, to your point, Jeff, this is a regulation that can be adopted and amended after a public hearing. Does not require town meeting.
I'm sorry,
So-
I do agree. Yes, I know that, but
Right.
yeah,
Well, I know
it's-
you know
it's not a
that.
once a year
Everybody here
type
knows
thing.
that, but
So
so it's
yeah.
relatively easy to amend.
So
if
why don't we
we
put that on the table for right now, Mark? We'll discuss it. We're still in, Mark, we're still in a draft form for it, but.
Yep.
Okay. And other people have any input on it?
I guess with regards to, Mark, when you were presenting the PowerPoint and the step 4 and step 5 and possibly those two being done at the same time, I guess I would recommend that that does not occur. Again, we don't want developers to presuppose based on what they feel is going to happen. Just like we've been very cautious about accepting a preliminary subdivision plan in step 1, essentially, only to have it, potentially impact the conservation analysis later on. So, any sort of plans that are laid out, I'm not a fan of early on, and I'd propose or somehow or another strengthen the language such that we can keep that from occurring until step 5.
You mean you do not want to see a plan, a formal plan until we get later in the process? Is that
Exactly.
okay?
Well,
Yeah, that's why I think in step 2, and I want to credit Jess Gugino with this. We were trying to decide how to call this, and she said, "Well, how about a concept sketch?" I mean, that's a great idea. That'll help people to visualize what the land is and different options for it without being a plan. So that's why we use the term concept sketch in step 2.
well, I mean, it seems practical in the sense that developers already do have an idea of approximately where they want to fit things in. And that's useful. I think that is useful for us to know,
Yes.
not in terms of we have to agree with what they want, but to understand that, identify the areas that are really important and be prepared to defend those areas against development if that's the way it should be.
Yeah, and if I may, thinking back to our first round with the loop, just having the outline was critical, because as a planning board, we have to start looking at lines on a piece of paper very quickly and try and figure out what they're up against. They may be there may be land not in conservation trust. So there may be land in Ken, help me here. I'm forgetting chapter 61.
61A,
61A land, which you may or may not know about this. It's land that they're paying a much lower tax rate on because it's really laying fallow. It's forest land or something like that. It's unused land. But if they want to bring it out of 61A, they've got to come to us to do it, and they have to pay back taxes on it. We have to actually do that work to figure it out. So sometimes it's important that we know what the boundaries are, just so we can start the process rolling forward. It has nothing to do with land value from a conservation standpoint. It's just, there's 2 tracks here. So we do need a conceptual plan from the beginning so we can understand where the land's coming from, because that's down in the weeds for us. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, and Jeff, I think that what I see the concept sketch is it allows both parties at the table, the applicant and the authorities, us, to share what we're thinking. Just what's the general, concept sketch? What are you thinking? I'm thinking roughly 30 single-family homes with X space over here. I mean, whatever that roughly is, and we could say to them, we're thinking whatever. Perfect. At least it allows us to start, and I think that's the value of the concept sketch.
Also, if I may, the planning board is less and less contentious with applicants now. And we've been working towards prescriptive planning. That's what form-based code gets us. That's what OSRD gets us. So that people get rewarded for doing good things from a planning standpoint, as opposed to having it be a contentious series of meetings. That doesn't mean they can't be contentious, and we're going to have one pretty soon, but on a project that's almost complete. But that has to happen too. And it's not that we're getting in with the proponent. It's just, if the proponent comes with what they want to do, we don't end up where we ended up with the molten loop last time. Continuance. Oh, we're going away. So it's a little bit of a new thing. And later on this evening, we're going to talk about the impact. This is off the track here, but in our last part of the meeting, I'm going to hope to do a quick 10 or 12 slide presentation on the impact of OSRD versus old fashioned developments and how it's more sustainable in both tax dollars and open space. And that's what we're going for, because I see a lot of this being in the OSRD, not the typical subdivision world, which is a thing about Moulton I don't quite understand. Okay, but
So
thanks.
that's the definition of conceptual sketch, and I think, Jonathan, what you just described is great, except we don't have to point to any direction. We don't have to define any direction. We can say, we got a 50-acre plot, we want to put 30 properties on it. 30 homes.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's all you need to say. In regards to 61A, all you could say is, hey, on this 30-acre plot or 50-acre plot, there's 5 different parcels that are under 61A, and we may look to be developing that. So planning board, do whatever you got to do. That's all that needs to be said. There does not need to be a sketch. Nothing has to happen like that,
Mhm.
right?
So Mark, I get hung up on one thing. We have to know we're dealing with somebody who has the rights to the land.
So it's all in public record, right? I assume. So I mean, they got to figure that out.
Ayer Solar One came to us as a plan and concept that was not yet under the control of the person bringing it to us, and that caused problems. They have to have a P&S in place, or they have to own the land. Mark, I can't go to the planning board and talk about my neighbor's land like I'm going to do something to it. I don't own it.
Isn't that part of step 1, Jeff?
Right.
I just want to make sure it is. I don't want to get too far off the rails here. I want to make sure.
I mean, that's part of the conversation.
I think this, if I can make a comment to Mark, and I know this kind of goes back to, I believe, what Joanne Christoph believed very strongly in, that there shouldn't be any plans at the beginning. And that's how we kind of eased it off from plan to sketch and just a concept, rather than, anything more than that. So it was
Right, yeah.
kind of a compromise in the little subgroup that we came up with, that in a way, we at least know what their thoughts are, even though it's not a drawn plan by an engineer, it's just a sketch plan. So
Right.
the good part about that on an applicant's side, as if I were the applicant, is that I can come in without spending a lot of money on a plan as such, and maybe
Correct.
a lot of field work. Yet I can get a kind of a feel that this is what my engineer is leaning towards, and then I can ask in this preliminary way, to both the boards, if that kind of falls in place with what your ideas are. So it's kind of a compromise to get to a discussion point before someone comes in and says, this is what we're going to do, period. And then everyone's in a battle, and taking out and stake this and stake that, and give me all these perimeters and give me all the edge of wetlands and, the whole bit. So it's a little bit of a compromise that we were thinking we had in mind there, I guess.
And I guess, Ken, my concern is that as soon as somebody puts it down on paper, that battle starts. That's what they want to do. That's what they've paid money for an engineer to at least start looking at, and that's what they want to do. So as soon as we start telling them no on certain spots, it's going to be that way. So that's why I say, don't even start with anything. Just, hey, I got a property and I want to put some houses on it. Can we take a look at the property? Can we get an idea what OSRD, what sort of land would be the most important land that you'd like to have us put aside? Once they know that, then they can put a sketch to that. There's no reason why they have to start, the other way around.
On the other hand, Mark, I'd push back and just say, like, if you look at Shaker Mill Pond, they came in with too detailed a sketch in the very beginning, and they were building 25 feet from the shore of Shaker Mill Pond and all that. But and this was, I think, our second conservation recommendation. But to at least have an idea of what they want and then an idea of what we want allows, like what Ken said, to get to a discussion point. So we did horse trading then, in a way. We got them to move away from the shore.
I guess I understand that. I think at the end of the day, though, that what you think is maybe horse trading and fair negotiation. I know I've heard from a number of developers with regards to home builders and things like that. When I purchased homes, they say, oh yeah, we go in and ask them for 20 trees that we're going to cut down. And then in the end, we take down the 7 that we want or whatever. you know, if they're gonna start off, you know, asking for the sky's limit, and then, you know, they're gonna come back to what they want at the end of the day. And I think that's something that we should be looking to protect ourselves from.
I think I'm leaning towards Mark Phillips on this as well. That, I don't know why that couldn't be. I mean, you probably don't want to hear from me because I was part of the process, but I tend to agree with Mark on this a little bit.
So that agreement would be not to have a concept sketch?
Not to have, just have them come in initially. We're coming in. This is what we want to do.
So I have to, I want to defend the concept sketch. I think that, first of all, realistically, no one just buys a piece of property, then comes before the planning board without some idea what they want to do. And damn it, as a member of the planning board, I want to know what that is. I want to know what that is. I want to know where, you know, I want to know where they're coming from, because no one's just going to come in saying, oh, I got 10 acres here.
Well, they
an
have 10
idea.
acres, but they're going to say what they want to do. This is
Of
what we
course they
would like
are.
to do.
And I want to know what that is. It's not in stone. I want to know what they're thinking. And it could be outrageous. And if it is, we'll work with it. You know, we got lots of power here.
Right,
But I
but
want-
like, I don't think we're saying that they shouldn't come with an idea, right? We're just saying they shouldn't sketch it out, have drawings and all that. But if they come with like a, hey, this is our plot, this is like what we're kind of wanting to do, build 20 houses, whatever, that's fine. That's informative. That's what we need to do. To the point earlier, we want to make sure they own the land, they have the property. But I think what we're saying, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we don't want like them to put so much, invest so much in it and draw it all out, right? That then it's a push to kind of go back for that. We want the general information, of course. How are we going to make decisions without it? But we don't want more than that. Like we need to
That's what we're saying.
define exactly what we need.
I'm gonna go to, excuse me, Mark, through to Jeff, to Mark Phillips and Jan. So I think we might have a misunderstanding here. Mark Ashenbo may be able to straighten this out. The way I'm understanding the concept sketch is a land division type sketch, not necessarily so we just are dividing up the property into sections of land, as I think you showed later in the document, Mark, about creating the valuable locations for a housing location, another location for conservation or brooks and streams. It's breaking up the parcel into the locations which identify the most advantageous, typically buildable location, and the areas that need to be protected. It's no more than that. It doesn't show streets, it doesn't show buildings, it doesn't show anything more than just clumps of land, if I'm saying that correctly, Mark Ashenbo. Can you comment?
Ken, yes, I'm going to go to page 13 where I have the graphic that I
You might need
believe.
another
corres-
name for it, maybe, but that's the way we think of it. Something
Yeah,
like,
this is, I think this is what we're talking about, identifying areas for development versus the areas that are proposed for conservation.
right,
So here you just see two categories. One, potential development areas that basically fall out after the conservation recommendations. So in the conservation analysis in this process that occurred earlier, they identified the green areas as being important for conservation. And you can see how they did that if I go back here one or two steps in the conservation process. But I think of all of these could be a concept sketch because we want to know where these important resources are. But I think at the concept sketch stage, we don't want to see lot lines. And I know that's what Joanne was really concerned with.
right, yeah,
Because in this Randall Aaron method, the guy who invented this process,
So Mark, I
he
guess
wanted
I'm
people to follow
misunderstanding.
this sequentially. You know, you identify the resources, you block out these areas, and then, you know, after meeting with the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board and leading into the preliminary plan, you actually detail where the houses will be, where the subdivision road will be, and you get your subdivision that way. I think that was the intent of this process.
So Mark, on page 13, that slide you're showing right now, or that page you're showing right
Yes.
now, when is that expected to be presented? That's the conceptual sketch in step one?
yes, I think so.
Or it could be, though this,
Because you indicated that it would be the result of some conservation analysis.
yeah, it's the result of the conservation analysis. So that's a little bit different than the concept sketch, yes.
So
That
I'm-
step there might come out of actually step 3.
So
you see.
if I may, I think this kind of became very clear to me. Let me just ask a question or make a statement and then ask a question. The statement would be, the process starts with conservation. They have to go through a process of determining the most valuable land. Ultimately, when it gets to the end of when it gets all the way through the process, the planning board is going to be the ones who write the final decisions on the property. And I think I'm pretty safe in saying, Mark, that the planning board is going to look to the Conservation Commission for all of the information around the high priority, high value land there. And I don't ever see us, I don't ever see me on a planning board arguing with the Conservation Commission about high value or not high value, to be honest with you, because I see the value of that land being very, very high. So I'm wondering if the piece that we're kind of struggling with right now is they come in saying what they want to do, we get it in our heads, and then we argue about it. Well, I think it should be clear to the proponent that we need to understand the outlines. We need to understand they have control of the property. After that, they need to understand that throughout the process, they will be in a negotiation about high value, high priority, high value land. And that I don't think any of us are coming to the table with a presupposition of what's high and what's not high without any conservation analysis being done. What happened to us with the Molten Loop is that's a subdivision that was already approved with up to 92 units on it. So it just doesn't fit the mold. If you think about it, guys, it doesn't fit this mold because they own the land, they had permission for it. The good news is they never touched it. So we're back at square one with it.
Touched a lot of it.
Well, they touched quite a bit. I mean, that's sort of, yeah.
Blew it up, so.
Hey, excuse me, they stopped touching it long enough so that we have a new rule. We have a new set of guidelines in place, guys. Let's not forget, this bylaw is actually, I mean, it's a third the size. There's
Well,
good news there. There really is. Anyway, so Mark Phillips, is that kind of where you don't want to be boxed in by what they're coming to with, because you guys got to do your work, and I get that. So we got to find a path where we can get all of our work done and not end up in a position where, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm not at all skilled in figuring out high value conservation land. That's what you guys do. The skill we have is figuring out what our bylaw is. And that's where I think we're going to come to the table and meet.
Right, exactly. And at the end of the day, you know, we're all volunteers here, even from an environmental perspective. So I'm not an expert at this also. I just know what I like, and I like green, and we like stuff like that. So, you know, again, if we're starting with the sketch that Mark Archambault was just showing, that's perfect. That's exactly what I was getting at. That's totally fine. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe this area, we're thinking maybe that area. Cool.
Correct.
That's great. I did not get the impression that that's what Jonathan was thinking. So that's why I you know, again, I was kind of pushing back. It's like, I don't think we're saying the same thing. And then, you know, Mark Archambault said, well, no, this would probably be step 3. So again, that's not at step 1. So I think we're not quite in alignment, but you know, the example, and I know Stratton Hill's not at all similar to this, but in talking with Jess over the course of going through that a number of times, you know, she brought up something late in the game that I never even thought about, merely because I was so fixated on the loop. And she said, well, nothing says they have to technically go beyond the power lines. If that's really high priority land, then why would they even go beyond that? And
Who
you know,
said
that was
that?
just, it never even occurred to me to think that.
We shouldn't get into a specific case here.
We keep
Yeah,
that now.
let's
Yeah.
keep it, yeah.
Right. What I'd like to do, though.
Thanks, Mark Archambault. And thanks,
Oh.
Mark Phillips. I think that, yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
I want to just go quickly to the definition of concept sketch. to see
Mark,
if it's-
before you move on, can I just make one comment? Listening to you guys go back and forth with the whole concept sketch debate. Would it be at all possible, and I know you guys did a lot of work to get this going on, but it seems to be something that everyone's being held off on, to have some sort of guidelines for what that concept sketch should or should not be? then that way we know it's not gonna go beyond the scope of what it is that everyone's looking for.
Right, well, I'll read
And
the
I think
definition
just
here.
leaving it
Yeah.
as a concept sketch, like, again, these are different engineers, different architects that are gonna be reading this. They're all gonna read it a different way. And not having some sort of guidelines for that is you're gonna get a wide variety of items that are gonna be submitted for it.
Yeah.
Well, I think the
Thank you, Heather.
definition,
And
if I may, Heather and everybody, I think this definition hopefully
yeah.
is clear enough. Concept sketch, informal plan showing potential open space conservation areas and building envelopes as an early step in designing an OSRD subdivision. It would be premature at this stage to show such details as definitive street locations, house lots, driveways, etc.
Good.
So it's not meant to be a preliminary plan level thing. It's meant to be very general. So,
And I think in general, that's really not that bad, Mark. And I think the only edit I would say is in the second sentence. Just say
right,
that it would be premature, just say it should not or will not include and be done with it.
It would
okay.
be premature at this stage to show such details. What's the matter?
Or it will not include such details. Okay. That,
Well, I
I'm
think,
okay with that. And if that makes,
Nathan, you had, yeah, go ahead,
yeah,
Nathan.
if I may weigh in a little bit. Why are we writing this document, right? This document is a guideline for applicants. And I think the form-based code is a good example where you have a document and a guideline that sets your expectation as a business. We have investors coming to us, we have engineers coming to us, and we do need to be clear. So I agree with Heather that clarity is important. If this document is doing the work it should, then the final analysis lies with the Conservation Commission, but an applicant
It's not the
should
law.
I'm saying specifically on the priority land analysis.
No, still doesn't.
Okay. Well, my point more is that when you walk through this document, you should get to the applicant shouldn't be shocked that they read this document and do A, and then the boards tell them B. So I think that coming up with a preliminary design as an investor to know if I'm going to if this is a property worth purchasing, they're already gonna do this information if they have the guideline to basically, they can look up these public indexes and the habitat databases and should be able to throw a dart and get pretty close to what the priority land is going to look like on their own. Is that naive?
Nothing you say is naive. You're Nathan.
You beat me to it, Ken, but no, not naive at all, not naive at all, Nathan.
I'd like to get back to something, Jeff, that's important.
Go ahead.
So I think we have to keep in mind that this happens with every time we try to write a regulation. Doesn't matter what the regulation is. That it starts with the basis of section 10 of the zoning bylaw. The regulation, as Mark pointed out at the beginning, is a subsection to that. So in the zoning regulation 10, whatever it is, 10.13, which is development impact and conservation analysis, section B, it talks about the planning board in consultation with the Conservation Commission shall study the conservation analysis, may conduct field visits, and shall formally determine which land should be preserved and where development may be located. That's the bylaw. So we are trying to develop a subset to that through cooperation with the Conservation Commission, but we still have the authority at the end of the day.
Yeah,
So I want to make it clear that we're trying to work together that from the very beginning, but it's hard to put all this in the perfect language. And in real time, to follow up a little bit of what Nathan said, developers are going to look at this. They're going to use it as a guideline. In real time, they're still going to try to push it down our throat, Mark, if they do disagree with us. There's no question about that. Mark Phillips, I'm talking to. But we're just trying to do the best we can to develop a fairly comprehensive set of regulations and rules, but they can be waived, they can change in real time. But ultimately, the planning board, and then we do have the last sentence. The planning board shall deny any application that does not include sufficient information to make conservation findings, or that does not preserve land that the planning board determined should be preserved from development as a result of the conservation analysis and finding. We still have the authority ultimately to say, no, we don't agree, period, start over. So keep in mind that it's a subset of guidelines, rules and regulations, that's what they are, of the real bylaw, which has very specific approved, a language in it already. So it's hard to make that all work out perfectly is what I'm getting at. I think it's pretty doggone close. So that's my roundabout statement. Thank you.
And that's fair, Ken. There's nothing wrong with that. Best laid plans always seem to go astray sometimes. And all I'm saying is, why not just start off with the, what we would consider, let's say, properly from the get-go and work forward that way. As you said, yeah, you can deny it at the end, and it's like, is anybody really gonna want to see a denial, and okay, let's start the process again. How friendly is that being from, once you've gone, spent how much money and gone down the path, how many months, let's say, or whatever. So, again, let's just try and be clear. This is what we're looking for, and hope for the best, I suppose.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Any further comments on this topic? Yes, Julie.
If we're gonna go forward with changing that language, can we just say it does not include such details? Because we're writing it as a statement of, and what it is, a definition. And so we're just saying it does not include these details. And then if it's not as should or it can't, it's just a recommendation that it does not include.
Yep, that's good.
Yep.
Oh, instead of will, it does
Yeah.
not include.
It does not include such details as definitive street locations,
Right.
house lots, driveways, etc. Great.
Yep, okay.
Okay. I was going to ask another question about the document. If we're okay, can I jump us forward to page 6?
Yep.
Yep. Under C, and I did a global search for this word in here, and nowhere do we talk about traffic studies in bylaws. We don't talk about a traffic study of any sort or traffic impact in this. Is that appropriate? Under C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we've got schools, police, fire, recreation,
Right.
water and sewer, solid waste disposal, D,
Well,
landscaping, aesthetics.
yeah.
We don't actually mention traffic in here.
That's a good
You
point, though. We
sure?
do mention it in the subdivision.
We mention traffic in
regulations.
3 places in the document.
Okay.
Okay.
That's, we might
So-
want to put a little something in there to catch that, yes.
I would just add, it's just that, and you don't have to write it now. We could write it
No,
later.
I'm just putting a space holder
Yeah.
for it, yes.
And I would like to
Oh.
see traffic, I would like to see traffic management and traffic study. For those who are uninitiated, traffic management is actually a safety study. A traffic impact study is level of service, and they're very, very different. Call me at another time, I'll take you through them.
Yeah,
Jeff?
we do
Yeah.
mention it in the subdivision reg, so it is, it's, if we didn't have it here, it's not like we would be prevented from requiring this, but yeah, you're right.
I'm just asking if it's appropriate for it to be here.
I think
it's-
it
Might
would be.
not
It's a,
be.
well, yeah, it's not technically a public service, because this is looking at the impacts on the town of Ayer. Traffic impact is a little bit different.
Mark, didn't you say that this is, you opened in, your opening was that this is a subset of the subdivision regulations?
Correct.
So if that's called out in the subdivision regulations, do we need to recall it here?
No.
Perhaps not, though some might want it here anyhow, but
Yeah, but it's not a public service. It doesn't belong
yeah,
here. And
that's
it's also
right.
not part of
Technically,
the-
it's not strictly a public service.
And it's
Right.
not part of
Okay.
the development impact statement either. So I think that we,
Okay,
I think we can let that lie.
Right.
You asked for questions, Jonathan. There we
No,
go.
no. I'm just saying, we're having a discussion. I think
Yeah.
that's
oh yeah,
why.
no,
Yeah.
that's good. Yep.
As long as we're on this section, and this is just from education, when you ask for the impact on these, is that all relative with when the application goes in? If it's 10 years down the road, does that not change? I guess just how do you have them rate that and say, you know,
I
we
think
have
it
a
was
school
kept
that-
somewhat, yeah.
You're
was
talking
kept
about,
somewhat
Mark, are you asking specifically about a traffic or just the other services?
No, just the others, like schools. It's like, well, you have, 400 elementary kids, and we think 50% of these homes will have elementary students, and each will have 2. Like, how do you figure that out? I'm just asking that.
No, it's a good question. And that's a challenging question right now and something we're going to talk about later. Excuse me, I just got cramps in my legs. I have to stand up. So you have to do it you have to unfortunately do it at a point in time where we are, Mark. It's not, I mean, lots of professionals right now are predicting that school populations are going up and going down based on birth rate changes in the last 7 years. For the first time in America in 7 years, the birth rate's gone up this year. So schools have been looking at declining student bodies because of that. But that may not be the best indicator because more people may be coming to the country with school-age children. We don't know. It's just hard. It's hard to pin down.
Yeah, I mean, the water and sewer, that's, did DPW plan for 40 years of growth or not? It's, and the impact on this subdivision that it might have on that. I mean, who knows? So I was just wondering how that's even calculated, but that's totally a separate aside, and I'm sorry to derail.
Right.
No, don't worry. And Mark, if you want to give me a call, I'll tell you what's going on with water and sewer and the sewer in town at this point. Water is a different challenge altogether. One of the things that we look at that gets in the back of our minds is fire and police. And right now we have fire equipment that can handle buildings up to 4 stories and the industrial buildings we have here in town. We go up about 6 stories, we're going to need new equipment. That's how we think about it. That's what we go to the fire department. We say, if it gets to be this high, can you deal with it? They say no. And that comes back to us in the recommendation. So that happens in the process. That's kind of down in the weeds for us. So we do work interactively with the fire and the police all the time. If they follow the prescriptions or the rules, the bylaws we have, we don't run into that as much. But schools is a challenge. Yes, it is. But that's not a bad question, Mark Phillips, at all. That's a really good question. So traffic doesn't deserve to be there. Fine with me.
Yeah, I just confirmed that is mentioned in the general provisions of the subdivision regs.
Yep.
So, yeah, I can see where you're concerned that some of these are somewhat open-ended, but that I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because this is an area where if we get too specific, it could come back to haunt us.
And you can't. I mean, has to be, Joe. I mean, like police, for example. I don't know who's moving in. I mean, who knows what the police burden will be? I mean, we just have general figures about population, et cetera, and space, but there is a definite deliberate looseness here because there are certain things that are just unpredictable.
Right. Though I do know that for some of these, because I did this sort of thing in previous planning jobs, like for school impact, there are multipliers, there are guidebooks for planners and engineers about how many school kids per type of housing and different parts of the country. So there are metrics on each of these that we would hope that they would use in their analysis, but. And that's one good thing too about the interdepartmental review that we have, and also peer review by professionals that the Planning Board or Conservation Commission may want to obtain is, if the information is out of date or not adequate, somebody could flag that. And
Yep. So I've actually covered the questions that I came up with in the document. I don't know if anybody else has anything that would be new to it at this point in time.
I'm just gonna scroll down to some of the submittal requirements for the conservation analysis, because this is actually where the document began. And so this is what the Conservation Commission will be looking at. So this might be a good thing for the Conservation Commission to make sure they're comfortable with, is the submittal requirements for the conservation analysis. If you'd like to add anything or modify it, it's on page 8 and page 9. Actually starts on page 7.
Starts in 7, yeah.
Right.
From what I saw, I was good with all this stuff.
Okay. Yeah, just go down a little bit to see if anything else jumps out. We already looked at that. We have some of this is describing the process, identifying the primary and secondary conservation areas, and then it shows the graphics that correspond to that. And lastly, you identify the house lot and street locations. And so you come up with something like this. And then the other meat of this document are the design guidelines. This is what,
Pause right there, Mark.
yes, right here.
Yeah, could you,
Yep.
right where your cursor is, where it says configuration of overall nature of the open space, and then there's something
Right.
in parentheses. I got totally confused there. Is that a note to yourself? What does that mean? Organized under subheading of priority lands for conservation with bullets under that number.
That's the.
That was a note to myself,
Oh,
right?
okay. All
That
right.
was, I should get rid of that, because now I'm not even sure what that was referring to.
I'm sorry, I just was,
No, thank you.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Thank you, Jonathan. I'd rather you catch it now than later.
and while we're here, if you could scroll down to flag lots, it's just on the
Sure.
next page, 17. And just remind me, I know I was part of this conversation, but if you look at number 3, flag lots cannot use cul-de-sac turnarounds for required road frontage. They must be located the length of the subdivision roads. I just want to confirm, is that where we landed? Because most of the time when an applicant requests a flag lot, it's going to be a cul-de-sac, typically. And I'm just, and
Maybe.
yeah, I'm just.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna chime in here also, because though I don't like cul-de-sac, if you think about cul-de-sacs in the traditional development, I don't like them.
Me neither.
But if you think about a cul-de-sac in an OSRD implementation, and right now we have 2 out of the 3 we're working on have cul-de-sacs, Curly Circle and Shaker Mill Pond. The total amount of linear footage of road in those 2 is less than a mile, and it supports 40 some odd houses. So the cost of that road may be actually covered by the taxes we get from those houses.
Nice.
So I would rather, and we'll talk about this when I have this presentation at the end about where we get money in our real estate taxes and where we have costs for maintenance and upkeep. And I'll let the cat out of the bag. OSRDs turned back 3 times more tax revenue than a traditional 1 acre development. And I've run the numbers, so I have the proof. And once the planning board looks at this and they're okay with it, I'm going to share it with I intend to share it with the select board, with your input, the select board and other people in town, because it's great news. But so I would struggle with cul-de-sacs, because OSRDs are actually written for cul-de-sacs on some of the property we have. But to put 26 units on a single piece of road that's less than a mile deep, it's a great there's a great turnaround for the town.
Yeah, Jeff, you failed to mention Panther Place has 2 cul-de-sacs as well, I think.
Oh, I know, but I don't know the length of the roads there because I was unable to figure it out. So I'm just using those 2 right now.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I remember the discussion about the that item number 3. And it was a little tricky, but I think Dan Van Skelquick was part and parcel to that. In that in the event that there are, first of all, we have to remember that under an OSRD, they can have a minimum of only 20 feet
Mhm.
of frontage, because we waive frontage and we waive lot size. So he was concerned that around a cul-de-sac for plowing, that driveways would be so close together.
Oh, that's right.
I
Right.
believe it was a safety issue for the location of the entrances to various driveways. It might be too
Yeah.
close and other things. So we
Yeah.
kind
Snow
of got,
storage and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right.
we didn't want necessarily to have a set of a cul-de-sac with a long set of loop driveways going off, to the flag lots in the back. We just kind of thought it would, by putting that in, I think we were trying to limit the number of flag lots in a way without specifically saying that we were limiting them.
So I'm going to ask you a question, Ken. Flag lots, number 4, flag lots must have a minimum frontage of 30 feet. Does that coincide with the numbers in the OSRD right now?
Well, see, OSRD, we have no minimum frontage, but the minimum by state law is 20 feet.
Okay,
So again, we just tried to increase
That's
it a little bit
more. Yeah.
good.
by saying,
Mhm.
it would be 30 feet.
I
I'm
think we
good.
went to
Thank you.
30 because of the minimum driveway width. We
Yep.
needed to
Okay.
accommodate that.
Is that now 12?
Right here,
20.
let's see, I'm looking at it right here. Common driveway, pavement width of 18 feet, right of way width of 30 feet. That's where that comes from.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you.
An 18-foot wide driveway. Wow, seems like a lot, but okay.
Well, that's a
Great.
maximum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Got it.
this was,
Are you okay with that, Jonathan? The flag
Yeah,
lot being
I
answered?
just wanted to double check it. That's all.
Okay, good.
Folks.
I know we're bouncing around a little bit, but
Oh, yep. I want to see what came after that. Yeah, access and open space, stormwater management, offsite improvements.
well, the
And then,
stormwater management, I think, was a discussion that conservation was very interested in as well.
right. Oh, yeah, here we go.
Basin locations.
that's on page 18, Ken?
Yeah,
Yes, page 18, second from the bottom.
Also, Jeff, there's a reference to traffic there in offsite number 1.
Yeah, related to traffic and pedestrian, yes.
Yeah.
That's one of the 3, thank you. But we don't talk specifically about impact or management studies. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
If we look at number 2 of location of stormwater management basins and facilities, it says interior areas of cul-de-sac bulbs should contain vegetation and or rain gardens. Does that mean that we're banning cul-de-sacs that are composed entirely of impermeable material? You know what I'm talking about? We're not going to accept like the asphalted cul-de-sac
Well,
anymore like
It
we
says
have. in-
should, so it's not a hard and fast
Okay.
must, but
yeah, so in the world of permeable versus impermeable, permeable versus impermeable surfaces, I would rather see it be a permeable surface.
Yeah, me too.
Now, I read that quickly and I say interior areas of cul-de-sac bulbs should contain vegetation and or rain gardens. It does not say to the exclusion of homes. A large island in a cul-de-sac could indeed include a home and a detention or a retention pond of some
Right.
sort.
that would
Yep.
be some gigantic cul-de-sac.
oh, you
We
see
got a
those,
couple. I've worked with a couple but I agree with you, Ken.
Well,
But you
I
got-
just want to get at is that this statement is not necessarily banning a cul-de-sac that's made traditionally out of just asphalt.
Oh, no,
Okay.
no.
All right, I just wanted to,
Right.
that's all I'm asking. Okay, thanks.
I
Yep.
think it's a question of, we saw now what they're doing at Panther Place where they are using the interior of those. And they actually did it at the Pleasant Street Extension and we have a resident down there on the call. So, or is it Nashua Street? I guess it's the Nashua Street Extension, excuse me. So it looks to be that you're better off with a little vegetation there than you are with pavement most of the time. But maybe it goes both ways depending on the neighborhood of how many units are there or something, but I think typically after you see what they're gonna do at Panther Place with the rain gardens and whatnot, it probably makes a better look.
Yep.
Another question through the chair to Mark Archambault. Mark, I have a number of little typo things, and I'm thinking it would be best to do that off meeting, so I don't waste everyone's time. Is that acceptable, everyone? No, these changes have no material impact on the semantic meaning. They're literally typos. Can we do that in an offline call?
And for those of you who don't know this, Jonathan Krantz is our built-in editor now.
Jonathan,
Yes.
I am shocked. I did a spell check. I did all that stuff and you still found some good stuff. I am shocked. No, I
Long
want to see
document.
those. Well, I know. I mean, that
Poor
doesn't
Mark.
catch little typos. I
Mark,
know.
they're just little things. Exactly. So they're nothing to get. And that's why I don't want, I'm suggesting this to you so I don't waste everyone's time. No one wants to do all that.
Oh,
I
no,
think
no.
that's
In
great.
fact, no, I was joking. I'm grateful for anything you find early
All right,
on
so-
before it becomes official.
Okay,
Now
before
is
it
the
becomes
time to
official, I'll get in touch with you and we'll go through it.
Yes,
Okay. Okay. great.
Absolutely.
Can we go back to the power line easement in part of the open space, number two?
Page 18, yep.
Yep.
So if I'm reading that right, we're saying less than 25%, which would be 25% of potentially 50%. So we're saying 12.5% of the overall development. That still sounds like a lot to me.
Yeah, this was a tough one because we have so many power lines, obviously, in Ayer.
Yeah.
And this came up with Panther Place, and yeah, it's a tough one because we have some very wide power line easements and we have some that are more narrow, and we spent a lot of time on this. It may not be in its final resting place here, but
I think that the trick is in the very last wording where it says the minimum required open space when it finds that doing so is environmental and design interests of the OSHD are being
right.
proposed. So it gives you what basically happened in a number of cases that we looked at power lines and we found out that in some cases they're actually beneficial. What's going on under the power lines is beneficial.
Right.
It's open space. And
Right.
we have conservation restrictions on Autumn Ridge, for instance, and includes the power lines, and we have trails that go through the power lines that are part of the conservation restriction. So it's a tricky category, and it really is.
Yeah, and
Really?
I totally agree with that, Ken. I guess my concern is that by allowing it, it's still a large percentage. So it'll always be, in my mind, it will always be in the environmental interest. It just comes down to the design interest.
Yeah.
So, I guess does it limit a house or two possibly? And would that matter so much? But again, if I'm doing the percentages correct, and tell me if I'm wrong, but that still would say it's potentially, a whole acre of property that, or so, let's say a 10-acre parcel or a 12-acre parcel, whatever, 10 acre, whatever, 1.2 acres would be added back into their, their 50% that they're setting aside, which still seems like a lot. I don't know, just asking. If everybody else is comfortable with it, I know, I'm okay.
So one of the things we've got, Mark, right now, and Ken will correct me if I'm incorrect, but in Panther Place, they actually can put more units in under OSRD than they are going to, but they won't do it because they don't think the market will take them. So even though we've granted them more units in the OSRD for Panther Place, they've made the actual decision that the minimum size lot is what a buyer wants in today's market. So I think they qualified for 6 more units or 8 more units than they're actually building over there in the OSRD. So yeah, Mark, it's kind of a double-edged sword. They could pack them in, but they don't think they could stay. They don't think they could create what they're trying to do as a really nice, in their eyes, a good neighborhood by packing them in. So, in Panther Place, I think is, I forget what the percentage open space there, but it's like 73 or 4% of the property is open space, even though they got the credit of the power lines over there.
Less.
So it's unique to each situation is what I'm trying to say, Mark.
Yep.
Okay, just thought I'd call it out.
Yep.
Oh, no, and by the way, the first one, curly circle, we learned about that, didn't we, guys?
Yes.
So. Okay, where are we? It's getting to be on 7:30. I really appreciate the time people are taking on this. And I have to say again, it's great. It's going to be helpful. I'm sure the first applicant through who uses it's going to find the gotcha.
They seem to be good at that.
It's why planning never stops, guys. It's why it never stops.
Because they're not volunteers.
I'm sorry.
They're not
That's
volunteers.
because they're not volunteers. They get paid the big
Exactly.
bucks to do that.
All right.
So, Jeff, one more question.
Please.
On the last section, density bonus, the last two paragraphs. Says the planning board prefers, and then applicants desiring density bonus units must. I think there's that incongruity there. Or maybe it's just a step that they have to take. I'm a little curious. It's a regulation, right? So these are rules that an applicant needs to follow. Correct?
Correct, unless the planning board decides that it doesn't make sense in a particular case and it can be waived.
Mhm.
And I believe this is something that, actually, I don't want to put you on the spot, Jonathan, but you came up with this. I think it's a great idea what you suggested here. And maybe you're the best person to explain why we wrote this section the way it is.
Yeah, because the difference is we prefer, but they must. So there's no contradictions. What we prefer, but what they're obligated to do. What they're obligated to do is to show that they cannot achieve what they want through attached housing options such as duplexes and multifamily units, et cetera. So I think that we're being entirely consistent in our approach.
Okay, yeah, so, Panther Place could have kept their property sizes, density kind of the same if they had gone with duplexes. They didn't want them. So that's, in this case, though, if somebody does want to add units, they first must show a multi-family plan.
I believe that's the intent of this paragraph, correct?
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you may, I'm thinking about Shaker Mill Pond.
Yep.
And it was actually a conservation commissioner who came up with the idea of duplexes in order for them to hit their numbers.
It was.
Yes. Commissioner Tillotson made the recommendation.
Oh, yes.
A past conservation commissioner. She said, why don't you put duplexes in there? And that's how those two in the back end of the cul-de-sac became duplexes.
Mhm.
It got them their number. It got the driveways down. It made the fire department happy. Everyone was happy at that point.
Right, you can save more open space. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, yep.
We're gonna find a bump, and as I said, the first first one through the gate on this one's gonna find the bumps in the road for us.
Yep.
But if this is really, I think this is a really good document. Any other comments, or can we kind of wrap this up for the evening?
No, I just want to reiterate, just like you just said, Jeff, that, even though we had the fairly lengthy discussion on the conceptual sketch, you guys did a great job. So thanks.
Hey, Mark, can you unshare the screen for a moment, please?
Yes.
Or just unshare it, that way we can all look at each other. Yeah, no, you guys did a phenomenal job. Thank you very much for everyone who worked on this. And what we've learned in the planning, what I've learned over the years of planning is it changes. People's desires where they want to live change. People don't want windows open anymore, so you can put houses right next to each other. It's crazy, as opposed to what I would rather have. But so good. What's the next step for this, Mark?
Well, I would like to see Jonathan's recommendation on the typos, not recommendation, but typos, so that I can correct those. Basically, the next step would be to go to a public hearing so that we could adopt them. And
How about June 14th?
yeah, I asked Heather about that. We can barely squeak by with the public hearing notice to do that, I believe. I already wrote the public hearing notice. So, yeah, if you'd like to, we could do that on June 14th.
Can I get a motion from somebody on the planning board?
Jeff, before you do that, I just want to make
Sure.
one comment. When that does go to public hearing, the document has to be complete. So if I am to post that, when that goes in the paper, that document has to be 100% complete.
When you have
So
to
I just
post
want to
it?
make sure that that's going to
Right.
be the case before I post that public hearing.
Okay, when do you
Because
have
at
to
this
post
point,
it?
we're going
Yeah.
to a daily paper, so it's gonna go in the paper at some point. Whether it's, I believe, early next week, if not late this week. So I just want to make sure that document's gonna be done before I do that.
Okay, so if it's a daily paper, when's the posting date for the 14th? Do you know offhand?
It has to be a daily paper. The deadline for the weekly paper was today.
Gosh.
Okay, so the deadline for the daily paper in order to hit June 14th would be,
I believe it's 2 days before the paper is out. And
okay,
in order to make the 14th, it has to be in by next Tuesday. That's when the first posting has to be done.
got it.
So with the holiday, I'm not sure how that's gonna work, so I'm gonna
Yep.
email the paper tomorrow, so I'm assuming it has to go to them, I'm gonna guess by Thursday.
You know what, guys, I'm gonna go with, we got a long weekend coming up. I'm not gonna be available for multiple days of it, which is great. So I think let's not rush it. Let's not rush the gates on this. Let's go for the 28th. Okay? It's not going to negatively impact anything. If we do have,
Might be a little strange if we have a hearing on the 28th that starts a process and we haven't got the rules in place. We're doing the rules at the same time as the other meeting. I'm sure it's going to be a meeting or a hearing.
well, I'm curious about that. On the 28th, we may or may not, are they coming to us as an OSRD?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
yes.
We gotta get the 14th
We don't know
done
when
then.
they're going to apply. It's possible that they will apply in preparation for June 28th.
So do we take a chance to get it done? Jonathan, how soon can you get Mr. Mark Yarchambeau your typos?
Mark, what are you doing tomorrow morning?
I'm actually in a meeting at the Montezuma Regional Planning Commission, but I will be back in the afternoon and I can make those.
I'm free in the afternoon. Pick a time, let me know what it is and I'll give you a call.
Thank you.
Yeah, how about 2:30?
2:30?
Yep.
Heather, could you please double check and make sure we can do it if we can get it done?
Yeah, I will email the paper tomorrow. I said sometimes they take a little while to get back. We're at the mercy of them, so.
Yep. So I would take a motion that we hold a public hearing for the Town of Ayer Open Space Residential Development Regulations Design Guidelines draft dated May 16th, 2022, with typos to be corrected tomorrow.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Krantz. Do we have a second?
Second,
Thank you, Ken. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion from the planning board?
yes.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make sure that Mark puts the date as of when the final corrections are made, not the May 16th.
Correct. Yes.
I consider that friendly. Thank you.
Right. Yep.
So it's going to be the regulations as they're completed by Mark and Jonathan. And we'll try and get them in the paper for a hearing on the 14th. Everyone clear on the motion? Great. Mr. Krantz, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Julie?
Spacebar never works. Yes.
Nathan?
Aye.
And Jeff votes aye. Great, thank you. Appreciate you focusing on that, guys, tomorrow. That'll get it done before the 24th. That'd be nice. 28th, excuse me. And that concludes,
Yeah,
excuse me?
Should the
Go ahead.
Conservation Commission support that with another motion of their own? I just was curious. No? Yes?
Oh,
I guess it would.
I mean,
Okay.
these are ultimately your regulations, so.
Okay,
Well, I cannot stress enough how thankful I am that we got through this.
So we gotta get through the hearing, so.
Well, this is true. We got to get through the hearing, but this is, guys, this is a lot of work, and thank you very, very much for doing it. And it's setting a new way to work together. And it's putting the resources of the town out in front of the interests of people who just want to gobble them up and leave for economic gain. I know it's hard to see sometimes. So thank you. Next on our agenda, we have a town planner update. We have announcements. We have a review open space residential development draft regulations. I think
Mr.
we just did
Chairman.
that. What?
Can, in the interest of, if Conservation Commission doesn't wish to continue.
Yes, please. That's what I was going to ask.
Okay. Is there a motion from a member of the Conservation Commission to adjourn from this special joint meeting?
So moved.
Second,
Moved by Mr. Bacon, seconded by Mr. Phillips. We'll do a roll call. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
I.
Mark, how do you vote?
aye.
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Take me with you.
It'll be quick, Julie. I promise.
Oh, sure.
It'll be quick.
Hang in there, Julie.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thank you very, very much. I'm glad we got this done.
Yeah, good to see you.
Okay. Next on our agenda, town planner update. Muted, Mark.
Still muted.
All right, I muted myself there. Should have done that earlier, right? But no, regarding CJ, I wanted to report to the board that I was incorrect when I stated that he had received a notice of the meeting where we discussed this in person. So he would like to have input to the planning board on this issue. So that may be something that we would like to invite him to the next meeting along with the abutters down there.
So that's Riley Jane Extension, the
Correct.
guardrail at Riley St. Jane Extension. Okay, so I've had a couple conversations with some people about that since then. I believe the letter we sent to CJ says that the planning board is unanimous in their support of the replacement with what was on the plans. So Mark has convinced me we probably need to have Mr. Moore CJ come to a meeting. I would recommend that we invite back the neighbors or a representative of the neighborhood. And I have spoken to Mr. Wetzel. And if we can do it on the 14th, I believe Mr. Wetzel will be there also. So we'll get to the bottom of it. He said, she said.
Mhm.
I think
If that is acceptable to the board. I'm hearing nothing from anybody.
Jeff, I think it might be valuable for us to avoid a he said, she said argument. I
Mhm.
think fundamentally the regulations require a written approval anyway, and I think that's where we should hang our hat. I don't want to get into a battle of personalities and who said what, because ultimately it's irrelevant. That's-
I'm not going to disagree with you. I happened to have a conversation with Mark about something unrelated to this, and I mentioned it to him. And he said he is planning to come to town to get some stuff taken care of, and the 14th would work for him. Otherwise, I'll set him free. It doesn't, he didn't put it on his calendar. He made an offer to come. And I don't disagree with you at all, Jonathan. But I would like to invite the neighbors in also. And I'd like to manage it as best we can, the same way we managed All Town years ago.
Yep,
Not a battle.
bring them
Okay?
all in.
Great, thank you. Do you have other announcements, Mr. Archambault? Mark?
No, just I'm looking to have a few people visit, and I won't name the company, but there's been some interest in 109 Central Avenue, which is the air moving and storage company. So I sent an email to a few people. The potential purchaser wishes to remain anonymous right now. But if you can get back to me, if it's possible to meet, I think they're trying to meet on Thursday.
Yeah. So let's take care of a couple other pieces of information of business for this evening, and then we will talk about that. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait a
Do you
minute.
have any other announcements? Because I've got a bunch of stuff I want to handle
No,
under
that
old
is, that is
business.
all I
Okay.
have. Yep.
Meeting minutes is next on our list, so I would like to
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes for May 9th, 2022 as amended and approved by the planning board.
Second.
Moved by Jonathan, seconded by Ken. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Nathan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Julie?
Yes.
Ken?
Aye.
Jonathan?
Aye.
And the chair makes it unanimous. Fantastic. Next on our list of administrative announcements, may I ask some indulgence and we take care of old business and new business first before board reorganization?
Mhm.
Thanks. So a couple things, site walks. We're trying, I believe, to get to Cataldo soon. Any
Correct. I
motion,
have
any
not-
movement on that?
I have not
Okay,
contacted him yet,
okay.
but I will try to set that up potentially for next week, I think.
That'd be great. Does Thursday morning still work for people? I'm getting shakes of heads all around. I think Thursday morning would work.
Thursday morning.
Fantastic.
What time?
I'd like
We
to-
don't know yet.
Okay.
I need
My
to
guess is they
contact Mr.
probably start around 6 o'clock in the morning, so they probably want us there as early as possible. I mean, we want to get, when I used to do landscaping, we got crews out by 6:15. So I'd like to do it at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning if we can. It seems to work
Okay.
for people fairly well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Fantastic. Mark just talked about the email that came today. We received an email today, Mark and I, from Dan Von Skelquick, saying that the 22 Fitchburg Road stormwater calculations are perfectly acceptable to him, and that it's a better solution than they presented in the past. Just want to make you aware of that. That'll be in the package next time you guys see it, but that just keeps the whole shop and save thing moving forward, which is not a bad thing. I'd like to share my screen for a minute. If I may, if I can find what I've been working on.
Did you want to talk about another site visit potentially, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. Ayer Solar 2.
Yes.
So Ayer Solar 2 is, it's too bad Jess is gone. Ken, Jess, and I met out at Ayer Solar 2 last week in the afternoon to take a look at it. It seems like they're not progressing in the fashion that was expected, and they haven't done some things. They've also had a preliminary conversation about making some changes to the road entranceway. We don't yet have anything in the way of plans for that, but I think it's probably appropriate that we invite the proponent in, either to meet us on a site walk or also to join us at a meeting to talk about where they are and where they're going. Because the project continues to move forward, but it doesn't move forward in what looks to be, how do you describe it, Ken? You want to describe it? It just seems to be.
I have to recuse myself.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. So the project's not moving forward in a way that I think we need to have the proponent explain to us why they're doing what they're doing in the order they're doing it in now. I think that's the fairest way to say it. Okay, so I'd like, Mark, if we could set that up, reach out to them. And I know Conservation's been in touch with them also. And we also need to, Mark, if you wouldn't mind, the last couple of conservation reports from the agent would be helpful. From the conservation monitor would be helpful also. And that'll give you guys some information about it. Okay. I hope that's clear as mud.
Yeah, no, that's good. I will talk to Jess and get those reports. And
Thanks.
Yep.
I clicked on the wrong thing again. Okay. So sustainability. here in Ayer. As you all know, oh, sorry. I'm going to share my screen. And this is very much preliminary draft mode, but I put together a little presentation on some numbers that I've been working for, some things I've been working on.
What's the context for this? I mean, why this presentation at all? What's this about? I'm sorry, I'm a little lost here.
Thank you. I was just about to get there. So one of the questions that I've had over the years is when we approve a type of development in this town or proposed development in this town, we have had traditional developments that are in this town, in that town would be what's basically A1, single acre zoning. We've gone to an OSRD, and there is a benefit to higher density. There are many benefits to higher density housing solutions to the town. So I've taken the time to kind of break it down and do a quick pass at what's going on here in Ayer since we've had 3 OSRDs. 2 are on the way, one's not. We've got, let me go through this. I think it'll come together for you, Jonathan. But really the question is, we all pay taxes to Ayer, and how does zoning impact that? So sustainability. Can you all see this? I can't tell.
Yes.
Okay, so in the broadest sense, sustainability refers to the ability to make, oh, you know what? My note screen disappeared. Bear with me 1 second, if you don't mind, please. There we go. Okay. So this is hard. I can't see any of you anymore, so please yell out if you have any questions. So sustainability. In the broadest sense, sustainability refers to the ability to maintain or support a process continuously over time. In business and policy contexts, sustainability seeks to prevent the depletion of natural or physical resources so that they will remain available for the long term. And to your point, Jonathan, I see planning as being a part of this. So planning and sustainability. This is my view, the first one. A long-term view of the finite resources of Ayer with a goal to maximize the derived value of the resource to all residents while balancing the need for housing. We need housing. And I go to the master plan, and the master plan states on page 7 under land use, Ayer can influence future land use to meet its economic, housing, transportation, and resources goals through development regulations, funding priorities, and careful future planning. Development regulations are a critical influence on the pattern of land use and include zoning and subdivision regulations. These regulations control for what types and how much development can occur throughout the town. Not the most easy to read sentence in the world, but I think you get the point, and that is we have some control. So there's 2 ways to look at it. There's financial sustainability and non-financial sustainability. And in financial sustainability, it's adding housing while implementing a responsible approach to the long-term burden of supporting the additional housing. And that burden can break down to probably more than this, but infrastructure, pavement, utilities, things like that. Public safety, police, ambulance, and fire services, and education. And this is a difficult one, as Mark was talking about earlier, the dynamics of student population educational resources that are needed for future educational methodologies. I don't really have any better way to say that right now. So the financial contributions, if you take a look at our zoning, the comparison of the residential real estate tax income by zoning type, we currently have general residence, mixed use transitional, residential A1, residential A2, open space residential development, and form-based code districts. And then we have non-financial contributions. One is the open space in perpetuity. And second is multimodal connectivity across our disparate and disconnected neighborhoods. And I'm not sure where we're going to get on that second one, but these are some thoughts I have, and I'd like to open up this as a conversation after we go through this. So financial contributions. I went out and took a look at an acre of land in each one of our zoning districts. And these numbers come from just a selection of properties. With the exception of the open space residential development at the bottom, I made an assumption for that, and I'll talk about my math later. But general residence, an acre of land of general residence, Washington and William Street's the corner, There's 4 homes. The town derives roughly $23,000 a year real estate taxes from that acre. Residence A1, this is acre zoning, if you will. Mulberry Circle, Pingree Hill. This excludes Pingree Hill. But a quick look at Mulberry, we get $6,000 a year from an acre. Pingree Hill, do a little bit better, around 8,000. Residence A2, about 18,000. Mixed use transitional, about $10,000 a year. And then open space residential development, if we take the units that are being built at the 3 different, and this is a graphic of it, of the open space, this is Shaker Mill Pond, Curly Circle, and the expectation of Panther Place. This is what they contribute per acre, if my math is anywhere correct, on an annual basis. So from a sustainability standpoint, we're looking at more money from a smaller area with an OSRD.
And just want, excuse me,
Go ahead.
clarify that per acre of where the house lots are located, not the entire OSRD, because if you added the 50% of open space, that
Yep.
number, of course, would change. I just want to
Yes,
clarify.
this is house lot. That's awesome. Thank you very much. I've been way down the rabbit hole on this, Jonathan, for a long time, and I've had to make some assumptions. But really what it comes down to is OSRD gives us 3 times the tax benefit. I had to come up with a number for our OSRDs. So I assumed $600,000 assessment per property for tax purposes. I then laid the same amount of money against the 162 units at Pingree Hill. So it's apples to apples. Pingree may be more, but 162 1-acre units versus what's going in the OSRD, we're seeing about a 3-fold. In other words, in order for Pingree Hill to produce the same amount of revenue for real estate taxes, those properties would have to be 3 times more valuable than what's going in the OSRDs in our current state model. Next is, so that's just a graphic of the 2 of them. Estimated revenue per road mile, it should say per road mile. I got that one backwards. Talking to Dan Von Skelquick about this, and Mark Wetzel and I talked about this a lot over the years, and that is, what does it cost to maintain one of our roads? What's the plowing? It's the striping, things like that. And if I take a look at the estimated revenue per mile, that is the taxes per mile of road, so however many houses it passes, Jonathan, and I had to make some estimates on this. And we get 511 open space versus an A1 of 434,200. Here's something to think about. Maybe you can remember how wide the roads are in the OSRDs we've approved, but on the plans, Pingree's roads are all approved to be 60 feet wide.
Jesus.
I don't think they are. I didn't go measure it. And my estimate is Pingree has about 3 miles of roads in it. And I don't have the full Panther Place road layouts yet to measure, but I came up with less than a mile, about a mile and a quarter for all 3 OSRDs we've already approved. Curly, Shaker Mill Pond, and Panther Place. So we see a lot more dollars coming in per road mile. Finally, the non-financial contributions, the open space in perpetuity. John Carroll Reserve, Curly Circle, as we know, just over 50%. Panther Place, 53%. I may have these backwards, but anyway, Shaker Mill Pond, 76% of the space at Shaker Mill Pond, or these are the percent open spaces of the 3 of them. I got to double check the numbers. And then Pingree Hill. You got an acre dog park out of 162 properties. It's not even contiguous to the subdivision. And that comes down to about 0.006. And finally, I mean, there's just the graphic of it. And finally, OSRC, the open space residential development seems to be a tool that can be used for producing more sustainably built housing. In other words, it's contributing more to our town. Open space remains a very important resource for all residents of Ayer. It's an assumption I'm making. We don't have anything with form-based code yet. It's still untested. No one's building anything. But if you put 17 units on the corner of Park Street and Main Street at, I don't know, $400,000 a unit, do the multiply that, divide it by $1,000, multiply by this year's tax rate of 1342. And all of a sudden you've got an empty lot that's now producing at a much higher rate for our taxes. And the other thing is, are there things I'm missing when it comes to the sustainability of housing in town? And that's what I wanted to share with you guys. And I'm gonna try and close it down.
Jeff, are you making this presentation to the board as a private citizen, or are you doing this as a representative of the board itself?
I'm doing this, it's a good question. Hadn't thought about it that way. It's just, I'm kind of a numbers guy, Jonathan, and I think about things. So when I'm walking downtown with Alan Minoyan, and we stop on the corner of Washington Street and a crossing road, and he says, we get more tax dollars from this acre of space than we get from an acre over there or over there. I, of course, nod my head, yes, I know that. Okay, but I don't know that other people know this. And one of the things is the open space residential open space OSRD has true benefits for this town. Okay. And I think this is something that would be with the board's approval, or if the board wanted to, I'd like to share this, and I'd like to dig deeper into it with the assessor's office and the treasurer to make sure that and the tax collector's office, excuse me, to make sure that it actually represents. I mean, I literally opened up the GIS and I found acre lots around town in the different zoning districts. I didn't pick any one of them for any other reason than that's what it was. The reason I picked Pingree Hill is it's got one property left to go. It's not complete. It's still in the control of the developer. And it's the most recent large scale if you think about it, we haven't done anything like that since the Pingree. So it's the most recent one. That's why it was picked. So go ahead.
Comment.
Yeah.
It sounds like the answer, Jonathan, is as a resident. Is that fair, Jeff?
Yeah, I want, the reason I did this is because I look upon denser housing as being a better idea for financial reasons, for green space reasons, for neighborhood reasons, all that stuff.
Yeah, so let me get to the comments on the presentation. I fundamentally agree. I think the Europeans have it right with denser living. I love the form-based code. I want to see developers come in downtown. But I do think there's some flaws in this analysis, and just some observations to make that may fill it out a little bit more, be more informative. I'll make 4 observations. First, Ayer is a unique town. So the same dollar value that people find, they're going to value things differently, and people move to Ayer because of hopefully an improving school system, some affordable housing, a good tax base with low taxes. And that's not what you're going to find in a neighboring town, and you may choose a neighboring town for its benefits. So that's point 1. 2 is the income. I would include the businesses in this town. They're I think a significant piece of the income, and therefore, does housing need to support 100% its property? I think that's one of the assets, actually, as I just said about Ayer, is the businesses are a significant contribution. Number 3. Is the cost per mile or cost per acre uniform? I don't think so. I think we have denser areas that I presume are higher cost, and less dense areas that are low cost. So I think, when you say that Washington Street's, dollar per mile cost, it's going to be more significant.
I'm sorry about the confusion. That was a direct OSRD versus Pingree Hill. That was a one-to-one relationship there.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's worth noting that that the cost per mile varies depending upon where you are in the town.
Yes.
And then last is that the values of properties change, not the values of properties are dependent upon the market, and people value different properties. I live in a 2-family. It's not highly valued. It doesn't climb with the rest of the market like the single families. So, I think that's something that we can encourage is that the OSRD and the smaller developments are to be more highly valued. But I'd like to see people value homes in and around public transportation. That would be one of my goals. So I think that it's good. It's a good 60,000 foot analysis, but I do think there are some things that you have to show. There's everything isn't uniform, and so those are some ways to weigh.
Oh, thank you. I think and I agree with you. Everything is not uniform, and the impetus was also, the last couple of developments have come into town have been one style versus another style, and just the whole idea of understanding what the value is. And I did put I use the same multiplier of 164 acres for one as of the 50, I think the number of units. I can open the spreadsheet on that one. So it didn't matter, if I did the individual, and I wasn't going to dig through 164 individual tax bills, but across the board, the assessments that I used, I did not use market rate. I used assessment, which is the assessor's rate, which should remain fairly uniform across the thing. But I do agree with you, Nathan. It was by necessity. This needs to be very narrowly focused, otherwise it falls apart. And I do agree, a mile of road, we accept miles of new roads in this town. Riley Jane, just off the top of my head, that road may be constructed differently than a road that was constructed 40 years ago. That's still in great shape because it just doesn't get the usage. So there's so many factors in there. But no, I'd love to know what the cost of snow, all the different costs of roads would be in order to figure that out. And it may be a red herring. It may not be even appropriate in this. But it's just starting to think about what do we get from density and stuff like that. I just want to put some numbers behind it. Other questions or feedback? Thank you.
I'm not so sure what this has directly, how it directly impacts the planning board right now in our discussions. I think part of the issue that you brought up, we're on that trail, we've been on that path, to more density as part of the bylaw changes. But it's hard to compare what the thought process would have been, 30 or 40 years ago when, 1 acre zoning was the prominent discussion to what we're going through today. So I do have one other comment, and I thought about this quite a bit, not your presentation, but the concept of open space. So for instance, I have a ton of open space on my property, which I'm willing to pay for and maintain. So in essence, open space and the definition of open space, you can set it aside in an OSRD and say, look, we're forcing you, the requirement is you have 50% open space. But I'd venture to say that Pingree Hill has 50% open space, although it's found on 1 acre lots all throughout the project. So some of it's developed lawns and some of it has trees. So it's really a different way of looking at things when you're connected to a tax base. But there's a value of open space on lots that are large as well as lots that have small lots, but designated open space set aside The big difference is it has a conservation restriction on the requirement in OSRDs, we make the paperwork in place, so.
Yeah, but with the OSRD, don't we actually require access for the community to that space? Allowed access?
Not required, no, it's an option. We don't have required open space on, I don't think the one that the Aho development has a way to get them to the open space because it's scattered about and it's a pond of most of it, so. And the same with Curly Circle. I mean, there's a path there, but it's gonna be walking around, in the woods through a fence or something, so. I think the value changes from property to property, so I'm struggling with how you put a value on the open space versus just calling it in terms of taxes, but I appreciate the work. I think it's.
Yeah, and from the dollars and cents standpoint, the open space was left out. It was just surely number of units times the value.
Yeah, right, so.
It was very simple thinking along those lines.
Yeah, as a planner, I want to say that I've seen similar analysis to this done, back starting in the 90s. And this reinforces those studies that show that OSRD subdivisions yield higher development values than conventional lots. And they also tend to hold their value and appreciate at a higher rate. So this is definitely consistent with previous studies, even though internally this might, need a little bit of refinement. It certainly rings true, definitely.
Yeah, well, one other thing I'd recommend, Jeff, you might look at is Autumn Ridge, the two condos in the 40B that we have, see how they fall into the equation. Autumn Ridge has a tremendous amount of open space and a lot in high density, which we don't even talk about because it's multifamily. And the other one on the east side of town, up on the top of the hill, Pauline knows the name, but I forgot at this point in time. That condo out there may have a lot of open space as well. I'm not sure. So when you get that.
Longfellow Place.
Right up there.
Yeah, I drive by it all the time. Yeah, no, again, this was because we're doing OSRDs and we had the latest one. It was just the most recent ones. But no, Ken, I think that's actually pretty valuable because it just puts it quantifies that stuff. And I don't want to belabor the point, at which point I want to make sure we get through everything. And there we go. So thank you for looking. I'm happy to circulate this with you. I've taken your notes. Thank you very much. And we will see about honing it down because it would be interesting to see what Autumn Ridge and some other stuff have done. Again, I've not been here that long, Ken, only coming up on 9 years, I think, at this point. So thank you. Next on the list, board reorganization. Somebody say something, please.
Do we go right ahead with nominations or how do we do this?
We've never done it before. I would suggest making nominations.
I'd like to make a motion that we nominate Jonathan Kranz as chairman of the planning board for the next 1-year term.
I'd like to second that. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss it. So, Jeff this is not a surprise. I talked to Jeff last weekend about this. A year ago, I would not have been enthusiastic about it, but a lot's happened in the last year. And what I feel is that I'm honored by the nomination, and should you vote for me, I'd accept it and I would be honored. The one thing I'd add to that is that, well, you know who I am and how I work, but I will need your help. And I mean that to everybody. There's a lot of rules I don't fully understand, the rules of order and other things. And so I will need help. But if you're willing to give that to me, boy, I would be honored to serve as chair and thank you.
Any further comments? At least he didn't say if nominated, I won't run. If elected, I won't serve. I'd like to call a vote, please, if there's no comments. Nathan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Julie?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
I vote aye. It's unanimous, Jonathan. Congratulations. And I will tell you right now, I'm available as much as I can as you need.
Okay, and
Okay.
when does the new term officially start?
You would like to call nominations for a vice chair, please? It's up to you, sir.
Oh, when is it?
You're the chairman.
I'm now the chairman at this
Yes.
moment. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, so I am looking for nominations for vice chair. As chair, am I allowed to make a motion or a nomination?
Yes, why not?
Sure.
Mr. Diskin, what are you up to? I'd like to nominate Mr. Diskin as vice chair.
I would second that.
That was a long time for a second.
I was trying to figure
I was
out why
waiting
he
for
wasn't
somebody else to
talking.
unmute. What can I say? Hey,
I was like, why
guys.
isn't Ken responding? Oh, wait, the archaic Roberts rules.
No, that's perfectly fine. Moved and seconded. Discussion about Mr. Diskin.
Do I have it? Yes, do I have any discussion?
Please, can we beg him?
No.
Will you?
Ken, what do you think? Let us know.
I like the role of being vice chair. It's a good fit for me. I'd prefer that to being the chairman easily. I think I can assist where need be and do the research I need to do to be effective. So I continue to like the position of being vice chair. I'm prepared to serve in the absence of Jonathan at a meeting or two, as I've done in the past. But my preference would be to stay right where I am.
Any further discussion? Yes, Julie.
I would like to add that it's also a good fit for our town. So thank you, Ken.
No, thank you.
Okay, then if there's no further discussion, I'd like to do a roll call vote. I'm going to start with Julie.
Yes.
Julie says aye. Nathan?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Ken? Oh, me. I say Jonathan, the chair says aye, and it looks like it's a unanimous vote for, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Do we have any thoughts on clerk?
I'll nominate Jeff Tillotson, planning board clerk for the next.
I second that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Any
Continue to
discussion?
serve.
Any discussion? Jeff, are you comfortable with that?
More than happy to serve as clerk. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I'll take a vote. Nathan?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Julie?
Yes.
And the chair votes aye. Congratulations, Jeff, you're now the clerk.
Thank you.
There's another piece of this puzzle, which is the MRPC representation. I have served this last year. And it's a once a month commitment, basically, to their meetings. It's important that we participate. One, they need to get a quorum themselves, so they have to have enough people, and we contribute to that. But number two, I suspect that the more visible you are, the easier it is to find assistance from the MRPC. I'll just put it that simply. So I would prefer not to be chair and the MRPC. In fact, I really don't want to do the MRPC at all. So I'm looking for a volunteer, and I have some good news. I've talked to Sean Copeland, who is currently the alternate and perhaps would remain the alternate. He's got to go through this process with the select board. But what that means, I've opened this idea that, well, could you split it? You know, one person do the odd months, the other person do the even months, and go back and forth to lighten the load. And he says, absolutely yes. So that commitment now goes from 12 months to basically 6 meetings, 6 months. So it is a lighter. Yes, Jeff.
I'd like to volunteer to work with the MRPC on behalf of the board, if it's okay with you all. I do work with the MRPC on a fairly regular basis on other things outside of town stuff. And I like working with Sean on stuff too. So
excellent.
I'm willing to take one for the team.
Do we need to have a vote for that? Or just that's it? Or is that good enough?
It's up to you all. But I'm also semi-retired, so I have the time to do it.
Okay, great. Is everyone comfortable with that? Nodding heads, Julie, Nathan. All right, excellent.
And Mr. Chair, I may ask a question. I'm
Later on.
currently the representative of the board to the Ayer Affordable Housing Trust.
I am?
I am currently the
you are,
liaison to the board. I would request that we maintain the current, and we can talk about this offline. We don't have to take action on it tonight. It's up to you, sir.
Yep.
But I would like to remain in that role going at least to the end of this year, because we've got a project coming up that is pretty interesting, and we're kind of dug in on it. And I think I can probably best serve the Housing Trust and the board by remaining involved in that.
I'd second that.
Thank you.
Everyone else comfortable with that?
Yes.
Julie gives thumbs up, Nathan, and yep, good. Yep, looks
Thank you.
good.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, this is kind of one of those weird things, before you ask for an adjournment, but I'd like to take a moment and recognize Heather Hampson. Heather, could you unmute, please?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
So, you could even, I don't know if you want to turn on the video or not, Heather, but I gotta tell you, I think, Heather, we've worked, what, 4 or 5 years together now?
It'll be 5 years in August, so pretty close to 5 years.
Boy, I have aged terribly over those 5 years. You haven't aged a day, Heather.
Oh, I thank you.
Seriously, I want to say thank you very much. We got a great team. This was broken, and the planning board, when I got here, was broken. And the town was going through this turmoil. And Mark joining us and Heather joining us has been a great benefit to the planning board and a great benefit to the town. They started out with bylaws that didn't work, and now they got bylaws that work, and now they have more guidance that works. So I want to wish, if I may, on behalf of the board, I want to wish, and by the way, Jonathan, one of the things you'll find out is I probably talk to Heather more than I talk to my wife during the week. But seriously, thank you very much, Heather. Wish you all the luck in the world in conservation. I'm really excited for you and for this next chapter in your life and what's going to be happening with that. And I just wanted to say thank you. And it's been an absolute pleasure to work with you. And I look forward to working with you going forward.
Oh, wait, thank you.
Me too.
Me
And,
three. Thank you, Heather.
Good luck, Heather.
It's gonna be very different. So I'm looking forward to it. But don't worry, we have new subdivisions coming in. You won't get rid of me 100% yet.
Okay. And I just want to make a comment to Mark and Heather. Think about what your calendar is like. I would love to meet with both of you this week or early next week, just to go over some of the nuts and bolts of chairmanship and make sure that, I just want to get off on the right start at, beginning with the next meeting. And both of you could be very helpful to me. So if you guys could look at your schedules and see what would be a good time for me to drop in for maybe an hour to talk things out, please let me know.
Oh, I'm free anytime, Jonathan. You just let me know when you're coming.
Thank you. And finally, a technical point. Should Jeff or myself sign the May 9th minutes for you?
Since the motion was made when Jeff was still the chair, much as he doesn't want to hear it, my suggestion would be that he'd sign them still. And then you would take over everything starting the next meeting. And I'll make sure I have these minutes done before the meeting. I'll have everything done by next Friday
Okay.
at the latest.
And Jonathan,
Yes, sir.
One passing thought is, you might want to just we might just have a quick conversation as we go through transition. As we go through the transition with Heather leaving the board, there's stuff going on in the background to try and keep support going for the planning board. Conversations I've been involved with, and I'm happy to bring you up to speed on that.
Yes.
We can do it offline.
Yeah, let's do that. I don't want to forget. So let me, I'm making note to contact you.
We won't forget. I won't let that happen.
Good. So that'll be a priority. Anyone have anything else? I would accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
What's that?
Seconded.
All right. We're all do I need to even get a vote at this point? It's a second. That's it, right?
Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful
Have a great
evening,
evening, all. Thank you very
everybody.
much.